What's good, y'all? Welcome to the Substitute Preacher Podcast. I'm your host, Isaiah Johnson, aka the Substitute Preacher. This is the first episode of my second series titled The Grind. So we're just gonna dive in and have a great time. I have some awesome guests lined up. I know y'all, a lot of people told me they really enjoyed the last ones. Well, these ones are just as good. So stay tuned. Before I go any further, please, I've gotten a lot of great support and feedback about the show. I appreciate it. I'm continuing to just come up with new ideas, and I pray all the time for the show and that God will just use me, that I can get out of the way and let him do his work and do his magic. Please like, comment, subscribe. It ain't about going viral or anything like that, but I'd appreciate the support. Share with someone who you think can use this type of stuff, and let's get not my name out there, but the glory of God in front of more people. That's what I'm about. So let's make it happen. Just kind of a quick recap of the last series. If you missed it, please check it out. The theme was identity. And I gave my opinion and my thoughts on, especially in young people, this process of identity and what that looks like, and truly finding yourself and being comfortable in your own body. And I think it was a really great series. My guests kind of carried me and carried the show. They had some awesome perspectives and stories on just this process of understanding yourself, finding yourself, and ultimately finding God. So this next one is not going to be as deep of a topic or nothing too profound. It's just going to be kind of, again, same thing with the stories and the guests, but the grind, baby. We're going to dive into it, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Me as a coach and a former player, that's who I'm going after. That's who I'm challenging, is people just in the midst of the grind. And there's all types of different grinds. It obviously don't just relate to sports, but professions, people, especially students and in college, and people in school, or someone who's committed and in a process of hard work or training. The military, it comes to mind, like all these things. There's so many different grinds, and I just want to encourage you all. And I can be like a rah-rah guy and a motivational speaker when necessary. Is not my thing, but especially like on the football field, like my guys, they'll tell you, when it's time to get hype, Coach Johnson, I'll make it happen. I can get it out of someone. But I've learned, especially for me personally, motivation is oftentimes just temporary. Like it kind of, it hypes you up, and there's this high of, I'm motivated, I want to take action and do this and that. But what happens 2-3 days later? It's like I'm back in the same cycle. I've learned in the past from experiences, from stories, from other people. There's stories that teach us a lesson, and that sticks with you. That's always in your memory. For example, the boy who cried wolf. Dude was playing around, and then when the wolf actually came and it was time to be serious, no one believed him. I took a lot from that as a kid. I was like, man, I can't play with people like that, because it's going eventually, the wolf is going to be there. Or don't play with the stove, your parents would tell you as a kid. They could have the greatest speech and yell at you in the best way. And yeah, a lot of kids might be like, all right, I guess I can't touch the stove. But human nature, curiosity, is going to be like, man, I'm going to touch this stove. And what happens? You learn. Yeah, you may learn from them telling you, but you're going to learn from actually touching the stove. And that thing, now my fingers is burnt up, and I ain't never touching it again. So hopefully with these stories, I'm going to talk about my story today, and then again, just have my guests drive the show themselves. And I think you guys are in for an amazing treat. Speaking of treats, I did a giveaway, $100 giveaway. If you've already kind of been following me, if you don't follow me on Instagram, please follow me at The Substitute Preacher. I will be doing more giveaways, and that's where I post a lot of reels, just a lot of quick stuff, get it out, as opposed to a whole show. This sometimes it's hard to stay consistent on these, but at least the videos, they're quick. I ain't got to edit it. I could just get it out. So please follow me on Instagram. If you already do, you're well aware of the giveaway that I just had. I had a good amount of kids say they were going to participate, or they did the first 2 steps. It was like follow, like, tag a couple friends, and they did that, a handful of them. However, my wife and I both said this, I ain't just going to give $100 just like that, like it's nothing. I'm going to make you work a little bit. So there was questions that I asked related to the episodes, and it was all right, do these questions. We're going to pick out the best answers, and that's it. It wasn't that hard. Man, I had, I think, 4 people turn in the answers to the questions. 2 didn't even finish them all. So I was a little disappointed in that. That being said, all things happen for a reason. This was pretty cool. This is why I wanted to share this. I mentioned the idea to my wife probably around the holidays. I was like, yeah, I want to do a giveaway. I see other pages and podcasts do similar things to kind of create exposure and generate a buzz around the show. And that's what I wanted to do. So I was like, man, I'm telling the kids, and they were all excited. Initially, my wife, I told her, and she was like, $100, that's kind of a lot. What if you did 50? Or what? And then she was like, okay, or what if you made 2 winners, 50 and 50? And I was like, nah, I really want to bless somebody. I think $100 would be cool, and they'll be excited. Everybody could use $100. So, bam, I put it out there. I posted, getting ready to do it. And I'm playing, this was the first time in a couple years I played fantasy football. And my team started off strong. I think I was in 2nd place or whatever the first few weeks, scoring a bunch of points. And then y'all know how fantasy goes, injuries and dudes slacking. And I started losing. I'm middle of the pack. I barely made the playoffs. But this was pretty cool. I said I'd do $100 for the winner. 2nd and 3rd place, I planned on doing giving away one of my t-shirts and giving away a book. For my last guest, Dylan DeMarsico, Elijah's Riddle, they just came out with a book called The Snow Globe. So I was like, that's perfect, man. I'll $100 shirt, bam, I'll do the book. It's good. Altogether, that's $140, $20 for the shirt, 20 or whatever for the book. So $140, $150. It ain't about the money, but I was like, all right, it's cool. Back to fantasy. So I barely made the playoffs. I think I was either last or second to last seed. And the first week, whoever my opponent was, is back and forth. And y'all, I literally won by decimal points. Decimal points, 0.46 or something crazy like that. And so now I move on. I'm into the semifinals. I'm playing the number 1 seed. And I'm like, man, it's over for me. This team had just kind of dogged me a few weeks prior. And they had scored the most points. And so I'm like, all right, we'll see what happens. I played dude, and he had a whole bunch of 49ers. He's a Niners fan, so he had Brock Purdy, McCaffrey, maybe one other dude. And that was the week they played the Ravens on Christmas. They got dogged, right? And I was loving it. I'm a big Lamar Jackson fan. I don't really like the Niners. I'm a Raiders fan. So it was a win-win. The Ravens won. Lamar went crazy. That kind of put his stamp on the MVP race. Created more buzz around that. And his fantasy team was screwed. And so I end up beating him. I upset him. Next week is the championship for all the marbles. And this dude was the 2nd seed. And so same thing. This one's kind of back and forth. I'm nervous. I didn't really expect to win, but I'm like, man, I'm here. I might as well win this thing. back and forth, back and forth. Well, I had a couple dudes, all my guys played early. And so he had one or two dudes left, and I had a nice little lead. And I'm like, man, he had Justin Jefferson. And sure enough, they played the Packers that day, and they kind of held him in check. I was nervous because Jair Alexander was out that game. And I'm like, oh, man, like, who gonna really guard him like that? But as a team, collectively, they held him in check. He might have had a touchdown, or he got some yards late, but I ended up winning that thing. $150. $150. So there's the verse in the Bible, you reap what you sow. Pretty popular. Most people probably have heard it. And the Bible mentions if you sow sparingly, you'll reap sparingly, right? So what you put in, if you put in not much effort, or if you go into something without caring, like that, you ain't gonna get really good results. But if you go into something with love and with generosity, you're gonna, God is a giving God, and he may give it back. So that was cool. It paid that. The lady who won was actually from the Philippines. She somehow found my channel, and she watched all the episodes and was showing me mad love all the way from out there. So now I got a few Filipino fans, which is dope. Like I said, it all kind of happened for a reason. It worked out. I was blessed. I was able to bless her. She hit me after, like, oh, I'm so grateful. I could really use the money. I'm a single mom, this, and that. And God is good, y'all. From a kid, I've learned to just be generous and be giving. And I learned that from watching my parents. They were always like that. And so it blesses me to bless others. And for the next giveaway, y'all better do it right, because I need one of my kids to win. I literally told my wife, like, hey, there's a few adults trying to do it, but I'm going to kind of rig it so one of my kids wins. It got to the point, it came down to it, and the two kids who did it didn't even finish all the questions. So I was like, man, y'all ain't winning nothing. But next time, participate correctly, pay attention. If you really want something, you got to follow directions to go get it. So it's all good. Now that I got the intro out of the way, I want to, like I said, just talk about my story. I think there's a lot of good takeaways and beneficial elements to my story. I've hinted on some of these things already, but I just kind of want to take a deeper dive and discuss what drives me to try and be great and try and succeed for me and my family. As a coach, I'm always looking to help the kids improve. And whatever the sport, there's levels to it, right? So you have kids who aren't that talented, kids with a little bit of talent, kids with a lot of talent. And then you have the unicorns, the LeBrons of the world, who are physical freaks, and they just pencil them in to get drafted. They're going to play on the professional level one day. You have 4, maybe 5 levels of talent in kids. However, the beautiful thing and what makes sports and even just life in general so cool is that not everyone puts in the same amount of work. So you can be a level 1 person and play like a level 3 person because of your work ethic, because of your attention to detail, because of your preparation. So that's what makes sports so beautiful. It's not always level 3 or level 4 guys or girls that are just dominating or that are getting drafted. Some of them go down the wrong path, or they underachieve because they don't work hard. They don't have a great work ethic. And so there's ways to level the playing field. And one thing I'll say about me, I've talked about it before. I was fortunate. I was blessed to play Division I football in the Power 5 Big Ten Conference. Ohio State, Michigan, who just won the national championship, I competed against those guys. Now, I didn't do great. My team didn't do great either, but I was on that level. I could say I made it. I was selected. I went through the training, which I'm going to talk about shortly here, and I was a guy. A very small percentage of people could say they've done that. When I see kids now And the way they talk, the way they practice, it's like they act as if they're level 4 and they're really talented. Some of them act like they're a unicorn like LeBron because they don't work as hard. And it's like, you say you have these goals and dreams, and that's great. And as a coach, I'm looking to get that out of you. Whatever you want to achieve, let's get it. I'm on board. Like, come on, I'm going to show up to work. You come work with me, and let's get that out of you. And is it always going to happen? No, there's injuries. Sometimes people just can't quite reach that level. I played at that level, but I'll say this. I overachieved. I overachieved because from a young age all the way to 20, I was 22, 21, 22. My last year playing football, I gave it pretty much everything I had. And I had to go through JUCO to earn a scholarship. And I barely got those looks, and I barely made it. And I could say I did it. I played special teams. I never started. I was a backup. And then my senior year, I was third string. And so looking back from the time when I really took it serious, maybe 10, 11, I started working out at home, hitting my push-ups and grinding. If I didn't do none of that, I wouldn't have made it. I wasn't quite talented enough. Now, of course, once you get to that level, it's like anybody could get it. It's there for the taking. But what preceded me was a work ethic, was me telling myself, all right, I'm gonna persevere through the pain, through the soreness, through the struggle. I'm gonna sacrifice maybe going out as much or doing things that I shouldn't be doing, that are fun, that are enticing. I put all that to the side, and I worked and I worked and I worked. And if I didn't do that in my teens, I wouldn't have made it. I wasn't good enough. To keep it 100, like, hard work doesn't look cool. You're sweating, you're straining, you're making faces. When I lived, even at the gym now, but especially back in the day when I was throwing weight up and I was trying to get strong, I made the ugliest faces. It don't look cool. But the people missing practice or speaking to you students, like missing school, I'm chilling, I'm cutting class. I don't have to be in class. That looks cool, to be honest. But where's it going to take you? What will the final result be? So don't be afraid to put in the work because it doesn't look cool. It's not the popular thing to do. Yeah, that's true. It's not the popular thing to do because not many people are able to succeed. You're the minority. Successful people are the minority. There's the saying, if it was easy, everybody would do it, and that's true. So just keep that in mind. Me as a coach, again, because I overachieved, because I had that success, I want it for others. I know what it takes, and I know other kids can do it. So I'm just going to encourage that. I'm going to try and make that happen. But you have to be on board. I get kids all the time like, hey, coach, yeah, I'm trying to play. I'm trying to be successful. Hey, coach, what was college like? What was the practice like? It was 100 times harder than this. And you're complaining and you're barely showing up for this. So how can you make it? Oh, coach, when I get the offer, when I get there, then I'll try harder. Nah, it don't work like that. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later too. So I'll never be one to laugh at someone who's a level 1 unathletic or not untalented person. I'll never tell them you can't reach your dreams and you can't get from point A to point B, whether that's a college scholarship, whether that's even just something as simple as starting with our team, with our current team. Unless they have no work ethic, because then you have zero chance. It don't make sense. What are we doing here? So if you're an athlete, do some soul searching. If maybe you don't know what level you're at, ask your coach. Coach, compared to the others, how athletic am I, or how talented am I? And they'll tell you. Hopefully they're honest. And if the answer is not LeBron James, you have to work hard if you have aspirations. And again, it doesn't have to be going pro or playing in college, none of that. Even if it's just having a successful season in high school or in middle school. Evaluate yourself. Try and figure out where you are. And then from there, figure out a plan to get to where you want to go. And whatever the plan is going to come with, it has to come with a work ethic, with a grind. I was first introduced to the grind from my father. My dad, and I mentioned this in previous episodes, but my dad, he did construction. For years he's done it, maybe 30 years. He got into it at a young age and was able to be successful. And he's been a foreman. And so specifically, he does fireproofing and plastering. So they're building a building, right? Well, my dad is in charge and helps with protecting the building from fire. It's a lot of physical labor, lifting heavy objects, climbing upstairs or up ladders, getting on lifts. And I shared the story where he fell. So obviously they be high up in the air sometimes on buildings. He's worked on skyscrapers and all in San Francisco, Oakland, Berkeley, like all throughout the Bay Area. And I always thought that was cool. But they have like take your kid to work day. I remember one day I asked when I was a kid, like, Dad, do you guys do this? And he was like, oh no, son, like my job is dangerous. We're high up there. Like kids can't be around this setting. And so I was like a little disappointed, but I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But from a young age, my dad, he'd get home from work. I never seen him in the morning because he would leave at 4 or 5 a.m. early, before the sun, maybe I'd wake up at 6 one day, like, let me catch Dad. I'd peek in the room. Gone. Nope, he ain't there. And I always respected that. Like, I knew it was hard to do, but I knew he was doing it for our benefit. And so he could provide for the family. And so I always looked at that like, wow, there would be evenings where my dad would come home from work, and my dad was a good father, and he invested in myself and my sisters, and he'd play catch with me with the football after school or when he would get off, and he'd play with my sisters. But a lot of times he'd lay out on the floor, and because he was tired, and he'd have all this white like plaster and all this stuff from his job all on his body, be all dirty, but he'd just lay out on the floor. He was exhausted. He was in the midst of a grind for his family. And so being exposed to that from a young age really put things in a perspective for me. And so I got into organized football at 8 years old, and I didn't know no better than to give it my all. And so I remember when I was 8, 9 years old, and they'd have us run gassers. If you don't know what a gasser is, you start on one side of the sidelines. You have a football field, right? The sidelines. You start on one side. You have to sprint all the way down to the other side, all the way back, down again and back again. And for me, like, yes, it was hard, but I'd just run full speed. And I was always one of the faster kids. And so especially like my second, third year playing football, I was known as the fastest dude. And so I'd down, back, and I'd win, and I'm working hard. I'd be tired, but it felt good. It was gratifying that I would win. If you're an athlete, we've all had that coach where it's like you feel like you're dying, and you just did however many gassers or sprints, and they're like, all right, get to the line. If this one's good, if everybody runs hard, and I've done this myself as a coach, if everybody runs hard, this is the last one. Now, are they telling the truth? Probably 80% of the time in their mind is like, all right, regardless, we're doing an extra one. Like, I just want to see them run hard. Well, the coaches would do that for us, And so I'm like, all right, like I'm gonna just do what I've been doing. Said go, and I'm running down full speed, and I'm like, all right, here's sprint number 1, and all of a sudden I look, and somebody's passing me, and I'm like, hold up, nah, how? And I start running harder, like, wait, why can't I catch this kid? Touch the line, go back. There's more kids. They were saving themselves. They would jog or not try, or maybe they would act like they was trying, but really they're not running full speed. And so I was confused. I was like, hold up, I've been winning all these. I'm the fastest. How am I not catching them right now on the one where everybody's running? And I quickly understood, like, okay, not all kids try hard all the time. In fact, some of these kids never try hard. Why is that? My hard work was validated, though, by my performance on the field. So I had better stamina than the other guys. And some of the guys who initially were faster than me, eventually when, we'd be, all right, y'all, last one if it's good. And now we're all running full speed, and I look to my right, and Johnny ain't passing me this time. He's trying during this rep, but he ain't passing me. And it's because of the work that preceded me. The work I put in allowed me to pass him up. He wasn't trying. And it caught up to him. And so I started to discover that, okay, this hard work, it's a good thing. It's rewarding. Like, okay, now I'm getting better than these guys. I have more endurance. It's showing up on the field. I'm getting more playing time. The coaches see he's not trying. They ain't putting him in. They're putting me in. They like my work. And I was doing well on the field. So it was really cool to see. As I got more serious about playing football at a high level, I carried that with me. And I wanted to be the best. And I knew that, okay, like I have pretty good talent. I was maybe a level, again, if it's level 1, you're not talented. Level 2, you're kind of average. Level 3, you're talented. I was like probably a level 3 guy. But I realized, like, okay, God's blessed me with some talent. I'm pretty good compared to my peers. I'm one of the better ones. All right, now if I outwork these guys, I'm giving myself a chance. So I committed to that. I told you guys when I went to high school, there was kind of an adjustment. I was used to going to public school, and it was all Mexicans and black kids in my schools. And now I go to high school and it's different. And these kids have money. And it was kind of that same approach. In the back of my head, it was like, all right, a lot of other kids are coming here for the athletics. O'Dowd has a really good athletic program, a history of that. And that's one of the main reasons I went there, to be honest. And so it was the same approach. Like, all right, I got to grind. I got to beat people straight up. If we run in hills, we used to run hills. And I want to win each one. And I know that if I don't win, but if I try and win and I try and catch this guy every time, eventually I'm gonna. My junior year, that was my first year playing varsity football. I was really good my sophomore year playing JV. And so the coaches, they had high expectations. And my head coach, Hardy Nickerson, he played in the league for 15, 16 years. Could be in the Hall of Fame soon. That's how great he was as a player. And he played linebacker, and that's what I played. So it was cool. So I gravitated towards him and tried to learn as much as possible. I was trying to do what he had done. And one thing he used to say, I took special teams seriously. I took football seriously. Anytime I was on the field, I wanted to be the guy to make the play. There was a sense of wanting recognition and feeling good about doing something good, but it was also just fun to me. Like, all right, if I'm going to run around and hit someone, I'm going to do it at full speed and hit them as hard as possible and try and win the rep. And that's what it was about. And so a lot of people don't take special teams seriously, football players, or they don't want to play special teams. I was like, get me on, like, let's get it. And so I remember, especially my junior year, but even my senior year, like I'd be flying down there, blowing dudes up. And high school football is cool because as a kid, they don't watch film. But once you get into high school, you have film study. And so we'd be in there in the team room in the dark. Some kids sleep. But coach is showing the clips and the film, and he'd go through every play and highlight some of the good things going on, some of the bad things. And he would always point me out. Look at Isaiah there. There's that guy. And I'd start feeling good. But what he would say after is some of the greatest advice I've ever received. And he told me and he told the team, when someone pats you on the back, work harder. And that was like mind blowing to me, because naturally, and even in that moment, when someone's praising you or congratulating you or telling you good job, human nature is like, cool, I'm gonna relax. I've made it. I ain't gotta work as hard. Oh, nice. I got some recognition. People's noticing me. All right, cool. I could kind of chill. But that mentality of when someone pats you on the back, hey, good job, Isaiah, instead of relaxing, flipping a switch and saying, all right, now I got to work harder. Cool, I earned your respect. I got to take it to another level. And that's really what drove me through high school, my last 2 years. And I was able to have a really good high school career. And y'all know what happened. I didn't get the scholarship offer I wanted. I felt like I deserved it. It don't always happen like that. And so it is what it is. It's back to work. It's back to the grind. JUCO ball is different. I'm going to just put it like that. So high school is fun. Some of the best memories you'll ever have are in high school with the team and the coach. If you're fortunate to play in college at a university, it's really a lot of fun. And depending on what school or how much money they have, a lot of things are paid for, and you get cool gear, and sometimes you get to be on TV, and there's all these perks. Junior college is kind of right there in the middle, where not as many fans, you don't get to be on TV, you don't get the recognition as the universities. You're kind of stuck in no man's land. And I discovered that quick. And I wasn't tripping. Like I had a goal and a plan, and I was going to execute it. That was my mindset. But a lot of people become shell-shocked when they get to a JUCO. There's no dorms. There's no on-campus living. And I went to, again, it's the greatest JUCO in history, City College of San Francisco. Like, I went to the best JUCO in the country. And we didn't have dorms and a lot of that stuff. A lot of the perks, there's no perks. There's no scholarships or paid tuition. And like California now, JUCO's free, but some kids had to pay for tuition. We had kids coming from out of state. I'd say probably maybe a quarter of our team was homeless. I talked about this with Jack in our episode. He was housing some of these dudes because they had no place to live. They was homeless, living in cars. It'd be dudes, one dude gets an apartment and he's kind of paying for it, or maybe 2 or 3 dudes is paying for it, staying there, but you had 8 dudes living in one spot. And most of them ain't even paying for rent. Like, it was really cutthroat. And so that was eye-opening. It was like, all right, these dudes, I have it better than a lot of these dudes. So I can't take this for granted. I got to still try and outwork them. They're here from Ohio and Florida and Texas and all these different states. And they're trying to outwork me. They have the same goal as me, but they have a harder path. So they're probably going to try and outwork me, but I can't let it happen. And so for me, I want to just kind of go over my schedule. I took like 4 classes a semester, I think. Something like that. But so I would have at least 2, 3, sometimes 4 classes in a day. After that, we would have meetings and then practice. And that's all. That could take up to 3 hours right after school. I don't remember what time we would start, maybe 1, 2 o'clock. We'd start and it's just right into it. And we would go to 3 or 4. Then we would have to lift. RIP Coach Bolano, the legend. But he was our strength coach, and we'd lift for another hour and a half. And that's the grind. School, and then right to meetings, then practice, then lift, and just do it over again. And high school kids don't realize it's, and I'll get into my Division I kind of program and schedule shortly, but it's hard. Like, y'all got to go to school, go to practice for an hour, hour and a half, maybe lift. Some schools lift, and it's maybe a few days a week, and that's it. You chilling. But JUCO, it was like that every day. So for me, I wanted to be independent, and my parents had paid for my high school, and that wasn't easy for them. So I didn't want to have to rely on them. So I worked. I worked at In-N-Out, best burgers. And my bad, because this always happens. Like, after the episode, it's like, dang, I should have said this. The episode with Dylan, the last one, we was talking about Cali food versus Jersey food. In-N-Out. I forgot to shout out In-N-Out, best burgers. But I worked at In-N-Out, and luckily I didn't gain too much weight because I was eating double doubles every day. But so here was my schedule. So I would wake up 6:30 maybe. I had to take BART. I didn't have a car. I didn't have my license. I would have to walk to BART. I wasn't trying to wake up my mom and have her. So I would just walk. And both BART stations, like, I was in between like Hayward BART station and Bayfair. And they were about the same distance. So depending on the schedule, I'd have to wake up, go walk to whichever train station a few miles away, 25 minute walk. And then from there, I'd get on the train, go to school, start my classes. Right after classes, practice. Right after practice, lift. And then after the lift, I'd have to hustle, run back to the station, change real quick, run to the station, hop on BART again, and go back to Bayfair. And I worked at the In-N-Out right there in San Leandro. So I did the closing shift, and it was from, I don't know, I'd be there from maybe 5 or 6 till 11 when we closed. Nearly every day. And it was hard, and I'd be tired and asleep. If I had a break in between classes, I would often do schoolwork at school. Like, or if I had a break, if I didn't have a class right before practice, if I had an hour to kill, I had to do work because I was getting home from In-N-Out at 11:30, 12 sometimes. And I wasn't trying to do homework then. I had to shower. I smelled like grease and fries and onions. And I'd have to shower, and I'm trying to go to sleep. So it was hard to really have a social life. Now, on the weekends, I would go out sometimes with my brothers, and after we'd win a game, and all that was cool. But it was hard to find time for myself. But I was stuck in the process, in this cycle of the grind. Did I enjoy it? I learned to. I think I did. Like, I learned to find ways to have fun at In-N-Out, and I'd see old friends come through, and all that was great. At school, trying to find ways to make this interesting in my mind, what I was learning. And then practice was tough, but I'm trying to earn a spot. I'm trying to earn playing time and get a scholarship. So I was committed to it. And again, by the grace of God, he hooked it up, and I did earn the scholarship. And my work ethic is what got me there. Like, real talk. If I gave 100%, if I gave 92% instead, I would have never made it. I would have just been, we had a nice high school career, never really did nothing after that. But I'm blessed, and I'm happy to say that I made it out. It's a beautiful thing. Rutgers University. a lot of people will ask me like, "Oh, you played at Rutgers," or "Oh, you played D1." Like, how was that? And I always say good. Like, overall, it's good. I got an education. I was able to experience high level football and make some incredible friends. I met my wife out there. All that was great. But a lot of it was bad because, again, we didn't really win much. We got beat up on. The workouts were excruciating. And I was away from home. Like, all that, there's so many elements that were just bad, to be honest. But it was a blessing. Debt free, baby. No college debt. Like, that's cool. So there was rarely a day where we got to wake up after maybe 5 or 5:30. We would have 4:30 a.m. workouts or 5 o'clock workouts, and usually it's a lift. Just know they were hell. Like, a lot of it was military type stuff, but now you're adding weight. We would do some just insane, intense psychopath workouts. And if you played football at a high level, if you played football in college, like D1 football, you had a psychopath for a strength coach. That's just how it is. Every friend I've ever talked to, former teammate who played somewhere else, he was a psychopath. The strength coaches are psychopaths, and they want to break you down. But in doing so and breaking you down, they're still barely giving you enough to where you can accomplish and where you overcome whatever they're throwing at you. And then by the time you progress, and they was throwing all this weight on, you could barely get it up without a spot. Now eventually I'm I'm coming into my own, and I'm really the strength is adding up. And so break you down and build you up. A lot of that from the lifts, it would, depending on what point in the season we were, but we would eat breakfast. That was cool. That was great. But even with that came hassle and came stress because we had to make a certain weight. And so at one point, my weight to gain, I had to get to 234. And then a couple weeks later, it'd be 238. When it got to 240, I was just so disgusted with myself, and I had to eat so much. So we had access to all this free, delicious food, but when you have to force yourself to eat and you're drinking all these shakes and PB&Js, and you just feel like a slob. You get tired of food. And so that's kind of where I was. But we would eat breakfast, keeping in mind that we had to make a certain weight. Some dudes had to lose weight, so they were on a diet and had restrictions. That was tough. But so from there, we would have meetings, again, depending on what time of the year. Maybe a team meeting. Head coach would talk, address the team, and then from there we'd break off into defense and offense, your side of the ball. From there, individual. So I'd go with the linebackers. We'd have a meeting. And then it's practice. We'd do practice for 3 hours. Not no Mickey Mouse 1.5 hours, high school ball, 3 hours. It'd usually go longer, 3.5 hours sometimes. We'd be out there just beating each other up, hitting, running. It's exhausting. And so from there, granted, so we've been up since 4 or 5 a.m. and we've been doing all these things, stressful, intense situations for hours now, right? The lift was 2 hours. We got to eat a little bit. Then we had meetings. That took another 1.5 hours, 2 hours. That's 4 hours. Then another 2-3 hours practice. That's 6-7 hours. And we was up since 4 or 5. All that in mind, trying to make weight. And so after practice, we would have to hit the cold tubs, which was uncomfortable, but we'd take an ice bath. It's recovery. You got to fix your body quick because we got practice. We either got another practice later or the next day. After that, we'd go to lunch. we'd eat lunch, and then it never stops. We'd go to meetings and review film with our position groups. And then again, depending on if we were in school or whatever the case, we'd go to classes, maybe have other meetings later, sometimes another practice. Like, it was just dragged out long days. A lot of us had night classes. So that's another. I remember most of the time I was there, I would always have a class from 7 to 10, like a 3-hour lecture hall. Now, I didn't go all the time. I wasn't the best student, but it's tough. So just kind of visualize that. You go from 4:30 a.m. waking up, and it's just nonstop physical work for a few hours. You're eating, trying to replenish. You're watching film. You have to process. And again, the greater you want to be, the more film you have to watch on your own. Guys are trying to get extra workouts on their own. It's a full-on job. All while they're trying to, the strength coaches, they're breaking you down mentally. So it's just exhausting. I truly want you guys to understand that to be great at something, sometimes that's what it takes. And you have to put in this work, and it's never easy. It's never easy. The night ends at 10 o'clock. I get back from school 10:30, and then I gotta eat because I gotta have something in me to where when I wake up in the morning, instead of the scale saying 231, I wanted to say 232, 233. I got to eat and drink a bunch of water. And then I'm waking up middle of the night peeing. And it was intense. That's Division I football for you. That's a schedule. No breaks. Again, and this isn't like we had no just random staff. My senior year, we had Ohio State's, probably half of their staff came on and took over our program. Now, I've talked to other friends and I've seen similarities, but I know Ohio State did this. Our strength coaches, so if we missed weight in the morning, we'd have to, before the workout, they'd give us some time, but we'd all weigh in. We'd have to eat and drink and then hop back on the scale. And if we're not our weight, basically we have to just keep doing it until we hit our weight. So the key or the secret was drinking. Like, if you drink a normal bottle of water, that'd be like a pound. So we'd be chugging. It was days, I think the most off I ever was maybe 6-7 pounds. But it'd be, some dudes was drinking 9 pounds worth of liquid and eating and just out to here right before a lift. Like, how insane is that? And again, it's not like, oh, they just did that at Rutgers. Rutgers was sorry. They was doing it at Ohio State. All right, you missed weight, drink, go eat. Intense stuff. But when you want to be great, there's no excuses. I know it's cliche, but no excuses. Like, you just got to put your head down and figure it out. And that's what we did. I'm going to relax on the Rutgers talk before I start having PTSD. Because, again, it was a struggle. But I did it. I'm here today. From there, so I graduated. My history of being a grinder set the tone for me in the professional world. And so I remember I got my first job. I was a skilled trades recruiter for one of the biggest staffing agencies in the country. And it was cool. So I would get people jobs. And I'm going to talk about this more in detail on other shows. But it was fast paced. It was challenging. We had to meet deadlines. It was definitely people driven, so you had to convince them that this was the job for them. And so that's what I did. I got people jobs. But I remember it was funny because early on, I'm used to this insane regimen. I got back to the crib and I get this job, and I was trying to sell them on my work ethic, and maybe they didn't believe me, but when I got there, people used to complain like, oh man, I'm waking up early. I got to wake up at 7 to get here. And I'm like, really? 7? I'm chilling. This is cool. Sign me up. So I did it and it was easy. Now, yeah, there was an adjustment in becoming a professional and learning the specific system and how they operate and just the ways of the job. But in terms of the hard work, it was nothing. Like, for real. That was the easiest part. Oh, I only got to be here till 5. Then I could go home and kick it. Like, all right, cool. Oh, you asked me to stay an extra hour, work a little overtime is nothing. I wasn't always saying that because I wanted to leave. I got my work done. But there was an adjustment period. And I'm not the smartest dude, so in kind of figuring everything out, that was the biggest adjustment. But once I did, I was rolling. I was making money, making commission, and doing my thing. If I wasn't a hard worker, if I wasn't a grinder, if I never played football, maybe I would have been in the same boat as the majority who complained about the hours or complained about the workload. But it was easy, and so I was successful. And even just in moving on from there, all my jobs, I've been successful. And that's one thing no one's ever said about me, is that I don't work hard, is what I do. And we live in an age, just in closing, I mean, there's millionaires nowadays who ain't satisfied. And they have side hustles and extra businesses and things they do to increase their income. Like millionaires, like people living comfortable. If they're doing it, why you ain't a millionaire? Why ain't you doing it? The only way you prepare yourself for the grind is by jumping in it and doing something. Whether it's waking up a little bit extra early, and a lot of my viewers are younger students. Fine, that's cool. You can still work. You can learn to mow lawns and clean windows or paint. Like, these are skills that, yes, they're skills and you have to learn them, but it ain't that hard. Like, if you study and do the work, we have the internet. And making money, yes, it can be hard. It can be tricky, especially when you're trying to make a lot of money. It's not that easy. But finding new ways to make money, it's so many ways out there. And that's what I want for you. I want you guys to, it ain't all about the money, but I want you to put yourself in a position where you can be successful. And that starts with work. And if you can figure out your thing, whether it's even just reading, just growing your mind, for you young people. If I can be smarter than this person, I can figure out if it's me versus them for a job or for an opportunity, I'm likely going to get picked because I'm smarter. Everyone wants someone who's smarter. Everyone wants someone with a good work ethic. Why? Because when push comes to shove, you're not going to fold. You're not going to give up. You're just going to continue. For you college students, or even people already with the profession, there's so much out there, y'all. I do the personal training. What are you implementing in your routine and your practice that's going to help you grow and develop in the grind? Yeah, it's important to try and grow mentally and to learn new things. Like, all that's great. I think the cool thing is endurance is just like with anything else. If I run laps, if I run a mile, 4 laps, and let's say I run it in 10 minutes, the more I practice, I'm just going to get used to it. Over time, it's just going to improve. It's the same with the grind. Like, yeah, if you're waking up at the last minute every day, and if you're just going through the motions at work, and then you get off and you feel bad because you're tired, so you just go to sleep or go watch Netflix all day, you're not really going to grow. But if you say, all right, I'm going to challenge myself, I'm going to wake up and read, I'm going to wake up and work out, and now I'm feeling good. That stuff is challenging. It's hard. I don't want to do it, but the more I do it, the easier it gets. I build endurance for the grind. So I challenge you all, find a grind and attack it. Again, it ain't just got to be sports. If you play sports, that's awesome. Like, it's going to translate to other aspects in your life, I promise you. But if it ain't sports, if it's just going to school or your profession, whatever your grind is, find ways to, one, master it, but then also expand it. Grow your grind. I just want to leave y'all with a quick scripture. Romans 5:3-5 states, not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. And that's kind of what I just mentioned. Like, waking up early, that's suffering to a degree. Like, it's hard. I don't feel good. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. But in doing that, it produces perseverance. Like the scripture says, you get used to it. You build stamina in doing that task. Perseverance, character. Perseverance produces character. So in doing diligent acts and challenging yourself, it's going to make you a better person. Real talk. And character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured out into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. So hopefully that resonates with you guys. I want you guys to challenge yourselves, embrace the grind. Don't be afraid of it. Don't run from the smoke of the grind. It's special what you can do when you commit to something and when you challenge yourself and when you try. It's just about trying. Again, it don't always look cool, but success is cool. Making money is cool. So get to it, y'all. I'm going to end with a quick prayer, as I always do. Father God, thank you for this time. I pray that hopefully my story can not only challenge people, but motivate them to commit to a grind and to work hard and look to better themselves. We all have a grind, God, and help us to persevere, to overcome it, to achieve, God. Thank you that you're on our side, and even when times get hard, that we can look to you for help and for comfort. God, I pray for anyone struggling right now, mentally, physically, emotionally, that you would just be with them, help them to find you and discover who you are. Bless this time, God. Bless all my friends, any viewer watching, Lord, their families. Protect them, watch over them. In Jesus' name, amen. Adios.